Olá, estamos aqui hoje para uma entrevista especial do Bate-Papo com Tarcísio, com o geógrafo David Harvey, de renome internacional, de muitos livros, muitos textos e muitas reflexões que nos instigam e nos dão instrumentos para interpretar a realidade. Hoje o cenário é diferente, não vamos ter aqueles belisquetes, aquela cervejinha e tal, porque a gente veio se encaixar aqui na agenda, do David Harvey, que está para um curso do movimento Se a Cidade Fosse Nossa. Espero que você goste da entrevista no Bate-Papo com Tarcísio com David Harvey. Olá, David. Queria primeiro agradecer muito sua presença aqui com a gente. Acho que vai ser um bom papo para todo mundo que acompanha nosso programa aí na internet. Um dos conceitos mais importantes para a gente no debate político aqui no Rio de Janeiro é o conceito de direito à cidade. Eu queria te pedir para poder explicar para a gente um pouquinho o que é o conceito de direito à cidade.
I think from my point of view as an academic, I would first want to say that the idea of the right to the city does not originate out of academic circles. It's really, as Lefebvre long ago said, it's a cry you hear from the streets, the neighborhoods, from frustrated populations that feel they're not consulted about things that happen, feel they can easily be victimized by economic forces that are outside of their control, see their urban environment being radically transformed by political power in ways that have nothing to do with their own wants, needs and desires. And so there is a sense that people want to get their city back and have the city be created as a decent place for them to live in, as opposed to a great place for investors to invest in. And I think that out of that comes a movement which is about regaining influence and power in the city on the part of often unconsulted, marginalized populations, and they rally around this idea that they want to regain the right to their city.
Ou seja, o direito à cidade não é apenas um direito individual, né? É um direito construído coletivamente, um espaço coletivo, em que os movimentos sociais atuam de forma decisiva. Nesse sentido, é correto afirmar que enquanto o capital destrói, a resistência constrói o direito à cidade?
I think one of the important things about the idea of the right to the city is trying to bring together many seemingly disparate and different struggles which are going on over different issues. In any city there are always groups that are struggling over health or education, against gentrification. There are women's movements or LGBT movements who want sort of a freedom, more freedom in the city, an acknowledgement in the city. And one of the things that has, I think, happened with the right to the city movement is a recognition that you would really want to consolidate those movements, not by suppressing the differences, but by creating a unified movement which says, okay, you have your problem, I'm going to help you with your problem, you help me with mine. And then what happens is the movement starts to say, we have to think about the city as a whole, as opposed to the very particular kind of problem that I am concerned about in my neighborhood or in my part of life.
Há uma charge famosa no Brasil que tem a seguinte frase, né? O capitalismo não é para fazer sentido, é para fazer dinheiro. Contudo, o discurso habitual, o discurso liberal habitual, é de que o capitalismo é eficiente, né? Ele é eficiente. Para você, qual é a natureza do capitalismo?
Capitalism is always about speculation. And it speculates in human desires, and it speculates in transforming the world around us. But the aim of all of that speculation is ultimately to make money and not to meet social needs. So we've reached a point where the world is awash with surplus capital. There's a mass of surplus capital out there. At the same time, there's a huge disposable population of unemployed people all around the world. And it is insane that you can't take that capital and put it together with that labor and make it do the things that we all know we need. Just look around conditions in Rio de Janeiro and you would say, there's a lot of things that need to be done. They're not being done because they say we have no money. But capital has an enormous amount of excess money. So what does capital want to do? It wants to build spectacular things which don't mean anything. I mean, you look at the urbanization in the Gulf states. They build this huge hotel with a ski slope in the middle of the desert. Now, is that a sensible thing to do? It's insane. And you start to look at some of the investment structures. There's a wonderful one, speculation in Spain in a city called Ciudad Real, where they built a new airport, cost about 2 billion euros. And of course, it all went bankrupt. And then they tried to sell it off, and the highest bid they got was 10,000 euros. So this is a huge waste of money, resources, labor on things that don't matter. And of course, the capitalists love it when politicians create mega projects. Olympic Games, you know about that, World Cups, big exhibitions, all those sorts of things. What does that do for daily life of the people? Well, it creates a bit of employment for a little while, and then it all goes away. And it's no accident that many of those places that actually stage some of these mega projects go bankrupt afterwards. I mean, Greece had the Olympic Games, and 2 years later it's basically bankrupt. So capital is not efficient at all in meeting people's needs. The only thing it's good at is creating speculative possibilities so that it can make money out of money and just simply keep everything going that way. So I think actually capitalism is one of the most irrational, insane and inefficient systems that has ever been constructed.
David, diante disso, qual é o papel dos mega-eventos, qual é o significado dos mega-eventos para essa sociedade capitalista, para essa sociedade urbana, e quais são as consequências desses mega-eventos para a população?
I think we have to understand something about the contemporary capitalism in particular, which is the scale at which it likes to operate. Capitalists can't be bothered about spending money on improving conditions at the corner of this street and the corner of that street, or doing things which actually improve conditions of life at a very, very local level. Capital, big bank, big developers want big projects, and then they can have a massive kind of use of all of their resources and negotiate how to do it in a very simple way. So there is a push to have big projects. It can be big transport projects, dams and things like that. Or one of the things they do like are these big mega projects, which have a lifetime of almost nothing. In other words, you do it and then it's all over. Mm-hmm. So the mega events like the Olympic Games, the World Cup, and expositions and so on are very much favoured by a large segment of capital. And the consequences are twofold. First, before those mega events, you always have to clear a space of some kind. And some of the displacements that have gone on, the history of the Olympic Games is a very good one. Almost every city where there's been an Olympic Games, there's been massive displacements of population. In Beijing, for example, about 3 million people were displaced. In Rome, 40 years ago, 5,000, 6,000 people were displaced. So you disrupt the neighborhood, you throw people out, you evict people, and that, of course, is profoundly disturbing for any city to live through. After the Olympic Games, or after these games, then there's a problem of what are you going to use these mega buildings for. And sometimes they have a use. I mean, if it's a soccer stadium, it's a soccer stadium and it can be used. But other parts of the games, they're the cycling tracks and things like that. I was in Athens recently and was looking at all of these empty, completely empty, useless buildings which just sit there, which have effectively no use whatsoever for the mass of the population. And then there's a question of how do you keep that? Do you demolish it, which costs you a lot of money? Do you keep it up? It costs you a lot of money. So it costs you a lot of money to keep this in motion. So it's a game that gets played again and again and again in almost every major city in the world. And I still don't understand why cities get very excited about bidding for the Olympic Games and bidding for these big events, you know. And then you look at who it is behind the bidding. It's the big banks, it's the big construction companies, it's those who are going to profit most from the mega project. So this is a good way of getting profit into certain people's hands. And of course we all know that none of these events that I've ever heard of proceeds as if there's no corruption, because there's always a great deal of corruption that surrounds it.
E assim termina o primeiro bloco do Bate-Papo com Tarcísio com David Harvey. Espero que você tenha gostado e não perca na próxima semana a segunda parte da entrevista. E se puder, contribua para o Bate-Papo com Tarcísio continuar no ar. Até lá!